ever been at home watching the figure skating portion of the Olympics? And if you're an average roller skater like myself, you think, maybe I could give this a try. Like maybe I could be good at figure skating. And I would say this to myself year after year after year watching the Olympics. I can do this just because it looks easy, it looks effortless, until the day I actually went to a skating rink. And after falling about 9 times, and mind you, this is only because I was standing up 30 seconds at a time, I couldn't stand up for longer than that, I said to myself these words: this was a lot easier to watch on TV. And I say that to you because doing something yourself will always be different from watching someone else do it. And this is especially true when it comes to volunteering our time to lead the next generation. As leaders in the church, we have a tendency to use the model of discipleship and the leading that was passed down to us. Someone stands on a stage to teach, the people in the audience listen, and then we leave. In other words, most of our models for passing down faith has been through listening to, observing, and hearing about faith from someone else doing all the talking. It's been a model for taking in information. But you know this already. As helpful as good information might be, it just doesn't capture the full experience of following Jesus. In fact, not only is there a difference between observing and participating, you could say observing is actually a pretty small part of the story. Participating isn't just a nice bonus, it's a necessary part. It's foundational. I mean, look at this. Now, no one can legitimately claim to have been skydiving simply because they heard about it or put on a suit. A huge part of the skydiving experience is actually jumping out of the plane. It isn't a bonus, it's the whole point. But what if we have been talking about faith to kids and teenagers as if serving and volunteering and using their gifts was an add-on to their faith experience, when in reality, it's the whole point? What if we've made it sound like serving was a bonus when it should be the foundation to the faith that we're passing on? I think it's possible when it comes to instilling and growing a faith in the next generation that we have missed the mark. We've had the wrong goal, and we're teaching kids and teenagers that their faith is more about knowing than doing. And as a result, we have a bunch of kids and teenagers who may know a lot, but haven't necessarily lived a lot of their faith out. But to send those kids and teenagers out in the world with a faith that hasn't been put to work is a problem. They need to do something. Now, in the book of James, the brother of Jesus writes this: "What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone? Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, 'Goodbye and have a good day, stay warm and eat well,' but then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do?" So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. James understood something that we have a tendency to forget as leaders, that if we are only ever thinking about faith through the lens of transferring information, then we are missing a big part of spiritual formation. James would go so far as to say that we are not forming faith at all, because faith without action is dead. So what's the alternative? Passing on a faith to the next generation that is alive and active. That means it does something. And we as leaders can be an instrumental part in encouraging kids and teenagers to take their faith and do something with it. The easiest way for a faith to be put in action is for kids and teenagers to begin to make serving a regular part of their lives. Serving in the church or in the community is one of the most accessible ways of making faith in action part of the everyday lives of the next generation. There are a lot of reasons why serving in some form or fashion is necessary. Now, besides what James said, the biggest reason is it puts down deep roots in their relationship with Jesus. It makes an experience out of their knowledge and puts feet to their faith. But that isn't all serving does. It affects their future too. Here's what I mean. Statistics show that kids who serve are more likely to be successful in school and graduate from high school and college. Now, they also end up having higher self-esteem, better communication, leadership, and problem-solving skills, and are more motivated. They are also more likely to take action when it comes to righting wrongs and being part of productive change. Now, taken a step further, research tells us when kids and teenagers volunteer and serve with their families, it benefits everyone individually, but also the family unit, improving communication skills, creating shared experiences, and modeling important shared values. In other words, when we encourage kids and teenagers to do something with their faith, serving, volunteering, discovering their gifts, and using those gifts to participate in the body of Christ, the whole person, the whole child, the whole teenager, the whole family, the whole community is made better. Now, the truth is, somewhere along the way, we started believing that the best marker of faith in the next generation was knowing the right information, believing the right things, or saying the right things. And we thought nothing could shake a well-defended faith. But what if having the right answers isn't enough? What if an everyday kind of faith requires an everyday kind of action? That's what serving is. The chance to make faith come alive in a way that sitting and listening and memorizing facts and learning answers will never do. In fact, when it comes to serving, when it comes to doing something with your faith, it might be the most important thing we could ever encourage a kid or teenager to do, because it takes their faith from being abstract to being real. It helps them see it in action. And as James would say, without doing something, faith is dead. By the way, that is why it matters that you show up each week. Just by showing up, you're demonstrating a kind of faith for the next generation that is active and does something. In fact, even though it seems like they may not notice you giving up your time to be there, they do. I remember this incredible moment when the light bulb went off for a kid that I didn't work for the church, that I volunteered to hang out with them. He stared at me lost and said, "Why would you do that?" And while it made me laugh, it also gave me a great chance to talk about my own faith and how it matters when you show up and do something for someone else. In fact, I'd say that it matters more when you do something you don't have to do. So what does that look like when you're leading a group of little kids or teenagers? Well, I'm glad you asked. First, it means that you lead them to do something for each other. Listen, our ministries are one of the safest places for kids to practice their faith. Now, maybe you lead preschoolers, and that means you practice sharing in your group. With older kids, maybe you take that lesson on encouragement or kind words and you practice on each other. For teenagers, you can even take the show on the road and show up for someone's swim meet or cheer them on at the school play. The point is, whatever you learn that week, find a way to help kids apply it in their relationships with each other. Now, second, we have to teach kids and teenagers to serve with each other. We have to move them from outside of our groups to serve with their community. With my own group, that has meant going on outings to serve at shelters or cleaning up an elderly person's yard. But it has also meant hosting clothing drives and writing postcards to the sick. Now, I don't know if you saw this going viral, but I recently called an encouragement phone line set up by this kindergarten class. This teacher recorded messages of their 4- and 5-year-olds saying encouraging things. Then adults could call in and hear these recordings. And I'm not gonna lie, it totally brightened my day. But it also let those little kids experience the power of doing something for other people in a way that was totally age appropriate. So, do something for each other, do something with each other, and then do something for younger kids. I know some of you already serve with little kids, but you know there's always someone younger who looks up to them. And as someone who has led teenagers for years, can I tell you something? There is something different about the teenagers who lead your younger kids. The ones who become volunteers in our preschool or middle school ministries, their faith just grows in a different way. It becomes more real to them. In fact, I've never found a discipleship tool quite like serving consistently with younger kids. Now, if you lead elementary schoolers, I get that this is a bit more tricky, but older kids can still encourage younger kids. The 4-year-old class can hold the hands of the 3-year-olds as they change classrooms. The 4th graders can act out a story for the 1st graders. No matter how it happens, there is something magical about an older kid showing up in a younger space and serving. And it'll stretch their faith in a way that they might not even expect. Okay, finally, and this one is big. Do something as a family. Do something as a family. Listen, something powerful happens in the home when family members serve together. Maybe that means they lead a small group of younger kids together, or maybe it means that they greet people at the door as they walk in. Maybe they don't volunteer at your church at all. It still counts if families serve their communities outside of your church walls. No matter where it happens, serving together helps kids see their parents in a new way and gives them important moments to share together. So when you invite kids and teenagers to do something they don't have to do, don't forget to invite parents and caregivers to join in. Okay, now do a little rewind with me. I want you to go back in your mind to the moment that you signed up to be a volunteer. You there? Good. I want you to think about what it was that made you say yes. I'll give you a second to think about it. Now, I don't know what it was for you, but I'm guessing that there was a part of you that said, I want to help a kid, or I want to help a teenager have a personal faith. And maybe like me, as you began to do something for them, you noticed that your own personal faith began to grow too. That's how it works. When you do something you don't have to do, God begins to do something in you. And the same is true for the kids and teenagers that you lead. My friend Reggie says it this way: the kids you lead may forget what you teach them, but they'll never get over what God does through them. And that's why, as leaders, one of the most important things that we can do for the next generation is this right here. Lead them to do something that they don't have to do.